Albert Einstein once said, intellectual growth should commence at birth and cease only at death. A warm good morning to one and all present here, respected mentor, and all my dear friends. In the previous seminar session, we have discussed about types and principles of curriculum. Now, I invite Adira AM to continue with the seminar portion.
Good morning, one and all. As Nancy mentioned, last class we discussed about what are curriculum, what are the different types of curriculum, and what are the different state principles of curriculum. In curriculum, basically, there are more than 7 approaches in organizing a curriculum. So let's look into each of these organization curriculum approach. So the main approaches involved in curriculum organization are concentric approach, spiral approach, and interdisciplinary approach. The first approach in curriculum involves concentric approach. So as the name's concentric circle has the same center, but it possesses different radius. Likewise, this curriculum involves a common origin but different dimension at each step. Here, the knowledge is widened slowly and steadily. Thus, a subject matter is spread over a number of years. In introductory year, elementary knowledge is given. In the next year, a higher level of knowledge is added, and this will be developed in subsequent years. Thus, a steady program is maintained to impart knowledge to students. So, well as a painting of a building. Here, a painting involves several coatings are made to give the permanent effect from premier to final touch. Likewise, in knowledge development also, in this concentric approach, we introduce a subject with a very little knowledge first, and subsequently on going to various academic level, we increases this knowledge one by one. And this method follows the maxims of teaching from all to part as well as from simple to complex. The best example is in the lower classes, people or the child will learn about things they use in their daily life like soap, glass, etc. At a later stage, they may know how these things are made, although, and at high school classes, they study about the manufacture of soap, glass, etc. So these are basically involved in this concentric approach. And the main advantage of this approach involved, there is a greater opportunity for revision of topics which may form the background for additional knowledge to be gained. Also, each topic is not disposed of and the people may revise and remember the different topics. At the same time, teacher takes the topic continuously every year. Teacher knows the weak point of the student and thus can bring necessary modification in topics to make base of the content strong in the students. Thus, the content will be acquired equally in all of the students through this approach. This is the main advantage of this concentric approach. And next is the disadvantages. The teacher must be capable of knowing the abilities with less repetition and monotony. Also, there is a possibility of losing the freshness of the subject as it deals with every year. So these are the main things involved in the concentric approach. Next is the spiral approach. Is this visible to all?
No,
Yes.
actually, slide.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. ഇല്ല
സ്ലൈഡ്
Slide
ചേഞ്ച് ആവുന്നില്ല
മാറുന്നില്ലേ?
അതിര. ഇല്ല ഇല്ല.
ഇല്ല
Okay, ഒരു ഇപ്പൊ കാണാവോ?
ഇപ്പൊ കാണാം.
Okay. Approach is a technique often used in teaching, where first the basic facts of a subject are learned without worrying about details. And also, as the learning progresses, more and more details are introduced in this spiral approach. So the name suggests this can be compared as a spiral itself. Here, at the same time, this can be related to the basics which are emphasized many times to help them into the long-term memory. After a mastery of the initial topic, the students spiral upwards as the new knowledge is introduced in next lessons. And also in the end, a rich bread. And the advantage of this method is that this can be considered as the gradation of linkage, and also continuity of the topic is maintained through this spiral approach. One of the example of this spiral approach is that while considering the topic heat, at the first year, we study about or deal about the uses of heat. On the next academic year or the second year, we study about the transfer of knowledge, and the third year we introduce the concept of measurement of heat, and at the last year the law of heat is explained. So these are the method involved in this spiral approach. Next, third type is the type approach. Here the materials to be taught is classified into different types. So it provides the characteristics of a group. These types are arranged according to the increasing order of complexity in the syllabus. And one of the examples is in the periodic table, we know that the group 1, first group is commonly called the alkali group, alkali metals, because all the elements in the first group shows the property of alkali, shows the alkaline nature. Thus, the first group elements are called the alkali metals. Likewise, there is another example. A single element represents a group of elements. These are all included in the type study approach. Advantage of this method involved, it helps the people to make their own generalization from types, and also it is based on the sound psychological principle which provide training in scientific thinking and develop power of observation. These are the main advantages of this type method. And a disadvantage is that all the contents cannot be classified into types. There are certain contents which can't be classified into different types. Then next approach is the topical approach. As the name indicates, here the whole course is divided into number of topics. Subjects are considered as an integral whole, and there is no differentiating between physics, chemistry or biology. All the subjects are considered as an integrated one. Science topics are grouped out to topics of immediate interest of the people. So here the topics are classified on the basis of the interest in order to arouse interest in the people. For example, a topic air can include a number of lessons such as in its physical property, chemical properties, combustion, respiration, etc. In all these units or all these topics, the concept air can be taught. And the main advantage of this method involved, there is a closer integration between different branches of science with other subjects. Also, the knowledge imparted become well integrated and correlated, and thereby making the subject matter more interest and real to people. Next is the disadvantage of this method. The people do not get a sound knowledge of the subject as it is dealt with in a general way. There is no specific subject is introduced through this curriculum approach, so the student does not get a sound knowledge. Also, the teacher must not be knowing all the different branches of science and must not be a wide reader. And also there is no available textbook based on this type of curricula. So this is one of the main disadvantages of this method. Next curriculum approach is the historical approach. So it is more important to deal with the historical approach or to know about the origin of certain subject. Science has a history of its own, and every invention or discovery has a historical background too. This historical approach emphasizes the organizing of the science course in accordance with the evolution of science, that is, the stages through which science has passed. And science is really an expression of human spirit, and it is essential that this aspect or the history of the science must be introduced in every people's mind. before dealing into the modern developmental approaches of science. So this historical approach mainly focuses on introducing how the origin and what are the process through which the science has developed. And the main limitation is that the school curriculum does not provide this, does not give any importance to this historical approach, and they only consider the reality of objectives. And next approach is the general science. General science is a course of scientific study based on the common experiences of children. It tries to explain the laws of nature without dividing the work into biology, chemistry, physics, and so on. So here there is no division of the subject matter, but it only considered about the laws of nature. Through this method, it popularizes science instruction by presenting a more simple, attractive, interesting study of scientific facts and principles in relation to the real things of life. An advantage of this general science involved, since the method deals with the situations related with nature, science learned in the classroom must be much useful in daily life, and also the child arouses a sense to solve his practical problems, as this method deals with the real problems of life. Since these people get fundamental knowledge about different branches of science, they can wisely choose the branch to be learned in details in the higher classes. So through this curriculum approach, it provide an option to child to choose their own subjective interest according to his wish. And also this scheme provide unity in school science courses. And the disadvantage of this method is that the selection of subject matter as a unified whole is very difficult as considered for each and every pupil. And also the scheme requires proficient teacher to handle simultaneously all the branches of science topic effectively, and it does not provide students sound knowledge of the subject matter. Textbook written in this line is not available too. And also it requires a well-equipped laboratories and libraries which are not easily available. And next is the last approach in curriculum, that is interdisciplinary approach. An interdisciplinary curriculum combines several school subjects into one active project or brings various aspects of curriculum into a meaningful association. So this provides an integrated course of the various subjects that we learned in the school. And this approach motivates and develops learners' power to perceive new relationships and thus to create a new model, systems, and structure. And the main benefits involved in these interdisciplinary approaches are the student explore multiple disciplines through the use of project-based learning or other student-centered learning approaches, and also students examine multiple disciplines for common skills, concepts, and ideas. And the student use multiple materials and resources, including professional experts networks rather than their textbooks. And also students work in flexible cooperative grouping. So these are the main advantages of this interdisciplinary organization. So this is the various approaches or main approaches in curriculum organization. I hope you all understood. Thank you.
Adira, could you please explain the advantages of history type of approach?
Okay. So when this historical based approach is introduced in this school curriculum, it would make that students more benefit to know about how this science has evolved, or what are the origin of science. So I think it will be a beneficial one when this historical approach is involved in school curriculum.
Thank you, Adara. Thank you, Adra, for this wonderful session. Let me invite Elsa Rachel Roy to continue with her seminar.
Good morning, one and all. Today I am here to take presentation on the topic correlation. We are going to discuss what is correlation, its importance, types of correlation and its benefits. Let's go through the PPT. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Before explaining about correlation, we need to understand the aim of education. Education is a coordinated process, and the major aim of education is the unification of knowledge existing in different branches of learning. To achieve such unification, a conscious effort has to be made by teachers who are teaching various subjects. That is, teaching of various subjects should be correlated. It is possible by such a joint venture that we will be able to achieve the goal of unification of knowledge. Then come to what is correlation. The term correlation in its simplest form means connected or to be connected. To be more precise or to be more specific, correlation means mutual relations of two or more things or persons. Then principle of correlation. Herbert is the first person who introduced the idea of correlation. He introduced the idea of correlating the teaching of various subjects, that is, all knowledge in one unit. The principle of correlation. The power of mind does not depend upon the amount of information accumulated in pieces not related to one another, but is rather on well-organized system on which all these pieces of knowledge are taught, showing their relationship one another. This is known as the principle of correlation. We should have to discuss about correlation in teaching. Correlation in teaching indicates a technique which shows the reciprocal relationship or direct relationship between various subjects of the curriculum for making the knowledge concrete and permanent. It is the conscious effort made by teachers teaching various subjects to show similarities or dependence of one subject on another. Or it is the relationship on the same grade level between two subjects or among all the subjects. The next is the importance of correlation. No subject can be taught in isolation. For effective learning, full advantage must be taken of various correlations and applications of physics, chemistry, and other school subjects with daily life. Various inventions in chemistry and physics have contributed a lot to the social and physical advancement of our society. Then next, type of correlation. There are three types of correlation. Correlation with practical life, horizontal or external correlation, vertical or internal correlation. Is it audible?
Yes.
Yes.
First one is correlation with practical life. That is correlation of given subject with daily activities. For example, applying formulas to calculate area of classroom area or home, use of aluminium foil to pack food, it explains its oxide forming property. Then next is horizontal or external correlation. Correlation between the given subject and other subjects. In horizontal correlation, an attempt is made to coordinate the teaching of various subjects. It can be done by three methods: casual, systematic, and concentric. That is, horizontal or external correlation is in three types: casual, systematic, and concentric. Then come to vertical or internal correlation. This type of correlation indicates the relationship between different branches of a given subject. It also includes correlation of different topics in the same branch of given subjects. So, there are three types of correlation. Correlation with practical life, horizontal or external correlation, which indicate the correlation between given subjects and other subjects. Then vertical or internal correlation, which indicates the relationship between different branches of a given subject. Then incidental correlation and systematic correlation. First one, incidental correlation. It is the natural correlation which the teacher secures by coordinating a topic with allied material from other subjects. It requires an exhaustive treatment of subject, bringing about points of similarities with other subjects. The success of incidental correlation depends on wide knowledge and reading of the science teacher. For example, a chemistry teacher, while teaching about oxygen, teacher says about hemoglobin, carrier of oxygen, and mountaineers use oxygen carriers. Then systematic correlation. Systematic correlation with other subjects can be achieved by careful organization of curriculum in different objects, avoiding necessary duplication of subject matter, and at the same time developing related topics from different angles. So, systematic correlation is made possible through careful organization of curriculum by group of teachers. That is, systematic correlation can be effectively only when teachers of different subjects coordinate their work. For example, while teaching about absorption, teacher says about purpose of using charcoal as a purifier in well. This is the difference between, given below is the difference between incidental correlation and systematic correlation. First, incidental correlation. It correlates the subject matter and make use of casually while teaching a unit. It may go unnoticed by some students who are inattentive. If incidental correlation is not made with stress, the student may feel confused as to why the teacher is talking of a topic in the history in physics or chemistry class. Then transfer of learning achieved is not satisfactory. It does not prevent repetition and the student tends to feel bored. It is in the usual classroom. Then systematic correlation in curriculum development is well planned and organized effort of a group of teachers. It is noticed by teachers. The relation is made clear to the student. Maximum transfer of learning is achieved. It avoids repetition. It prevents wastage of energy and time in the classroom. Then correlation of science within the subject or internal or vertical correlation. All the branches of science are interdependent upon each other and number of facts and principles which are common to various science subjects. As a result, new subjects were evolved like physical chemistry, biophysics, biochemistry, soil chemistry, electrochemistry, geophysics have been introduced. Subjects like atom, heat of chemical reaction, electrolysis are of equal importance in both physics and chemistry. Physics provides instruments for the study of almost all other subjects, thus correlating many principles of physics with the other science subjects. And also chemistry finds its application in various subjects like physics, for example theory of electrochemical reaction, in biology chemical maneuvering, in hygiene and physiology air, water, chemistry of food, chemistry of blood and purification of water. Then come to correlation of physical science with other subjects or horizontal or external correlation. First one, correlation of science and mathematics. Mathematics is probably the sole language of science. Real understanding of science is possible without adequate knowledge in mathematics, algebraic equation, graph, geometry, calculus, simple statistics, etc. Even simple measurements of area and space require the knowledge of mathematics. For example, knowledge of trigonometrical ratios is very helpful in mechanics and light. Kinetic theory of gases needs the knowledge of coordinate chemistry. So, science and mathematics are equally correlated. Then come to correlation of science and biology. The science of natural science such as zoology, botany and physiology owe to physics and chemistry to explain some common phenomena. For example, respiration in plants, photosynthesis, digestion of food, knowledge about pests and selection of pesticides, etc. can be explained using chemistry. And also absorption and evaporation of water, assimilation of food taken from the soil and atmosphere are explained by physics and chemistry. Then come to correlation of science and language. The peoples of science often have to write essays on scientific topics, on inventions and life of history of scientists and notes on their laboratory experiments. Science and language teachers have equal responsibilities in developing clear and accurate expressions. For example, science books on natural history and biography are make valuable contribution to literature and provide excellent reading material. Then correlation of science and geography. Geography is based on the scientific principle, so it can be correlated with physical sciences. Facts of climates and seasons depend on the elementary notions of scientific principle. Example, instruments like barometer, seismograph, thermometer, etc. can be used by geographer are common to science also. Lessons on tides, snow and ice, minerals and also rotation of planets, their influence on climate change, seasons, action of volcanoes, earthquakes are best understood when geography is studied with the aids of physics and chemistry. Then correlation of science and earth science. Different types of rocks, minerals contained in water and petroleum analysis, weathering, metallurgy, etc. can be studied while correlating science and earth science. Then correlation of science and history. It is useful to mention events in world history which coincide with important science discoveries. For example, correlation with science and history is very prominent on topics like story of moon, story of earth, story of man and story of planets. Also, Archimedes found a solution to a problem when king asked him to examine the purity of his crown Archimedes got the royal patronage in his search for scientific truth. Then, correlation of science with art and craft. Science offers a vast scope for activities connected with art and craft. Model making, painting, drawing of chart diagrams and pictures related to the science. For example, atom model. In craft work also, when we prepare some typical things is based on scales of measurement and law of symmetry based on the science. For example, wood and metal work, cardboard modeling, clay work, etc. can be successfully made use in the improvisation and construction of science apparatus. Next, correlation of science and music. A student gets the knowledge of resonance, vibrating systems in string and air columns and musical scale, which is quite useful to him to undergo a study of music. In music, students come across various types of instruments and equipments which are based on the principles of science. Then, correlation of science and life and environment. Modern man lives in a scientific society. Many natural phenomena that we see in our daily life can be explained with the help of simple scientific principle. In every topic, there can be innumerable local examples like ecosystem. Such correlation makes the teaching of science interesting and realistic. Example, photography and cinema. The teacher should refer the use of camera while teaching principles of image formation. Water purification, disinfectants, insecticides and maneuvers provide the examples of everyday use of science. Then come to benefits of correlation. First one is mind perceives knowledge as a whole. All the subjects aim to develop intellectual power of student as a whole. Therefore, it is necessary to correlate one subject to another. So, mind perceives knowledge as a whole. Then, it helps for recalling our earlier knowledge, and also help to make the knowledge useful. Correlation of subjects with daily life help to make the knowledge broad-based and makes knowledge useful. Then next is all-round development. Correlation helps for the unification of knowledge and it leads to the all-round development. Then development of psychological value. Thank you.